What the heck is a blockchain? Blockchain? What do you mean? I know blockchain Wayne, but I don't know what a blockchain is. Well, actually, I do, but you might not. So today on this episode of Sat Chats Short Stacks, we're going to be talking about what is a blockchain. I'll be your host, Chris, Smash Buyer. We got the contest going, 1 million sats giveaway. We're going to unlock the Friday show. Go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel.
Yep. And I am your co-host, Stewart, Bitcoin Maxi. So we're going to break this down into 3 parts for you satillionaires. Number 1, what's a block?
All right.
What is a block?
All right. What's a block? So before we turn the camera on here, I was just kind of noodling on this and I thought, hey, people don't know what a blockchain is, but a lot of people have worked in Excel before, right? Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, whatever you prefer. So think about a block kind of like one of the tabs in the spreadsheet, okay? And what happens is you open a new tab, It's blank, you do a bunch of work in it, you lock that into place, and then you lock that tab, and then you start a new tab, and that next tab that you start is all being calculated off of the previous tab. So think about a block on the blockchain as just a tab in an Excel spreadsheet that contains a bunch of data.
So a block is like a tab in a spreadsheet. And I've done this myself. I use Google Sheets. And I've got a big spreadsheet that tracks my Magic the Gathering collection, and I have a tab for each of my decks, so I know what's in them. So I'm familiar with like tabs running along the bottom of my little spreadsheet, right? So if a block is like one tab in a spreadsheet, well, what's in that tab? The individual rows of a block are going to have Bitcoin transactions. Number 1.
Yep.
I'm sending 1 million sats to number 32 Lucola. I'm sending 1 million sats to number 62 Jeff Booth. Chris is, Bitcoin Well is sending 5,211 billion Bitcoin to Chris because he's a smash buyer. All those transactions of Bitcoin from A to B, Bitcoin from C to D, Bitcoin maybe even from A to D, right? Because everybody can send everyone else. Those are all lines on the spreadsheet in that tab.
Yeah.
You're also going to have a timestamp. You're going to have some information about when was this done. And finally, you're going to have something called a nonce, which is a special number.
Dirty nonce.
That is going to secure, all this information. And we have a short stack called What is Bitcoin Mining? Or it might be How Does Mining Work? And you can watch that to learn more about what a nonce is. So those things are in that tab. That's the block. Now, how do they chain together?
Well, think about, one way. So I'm thinking about one specific spreadsheet that I have at home. And I've got a bunch of these. They're financial projections that go from January, March, February, right? April, May, June. And so the ending balance of January is the beginning balance of February, right? So you have this block that this tab or this block in this example that has all this information, but at the end it spits out a number. That number then goes up to the top of the next tab and links back to the previous tab. And then you do the same thing over.
Okay.
And then you go up to the next, and then you do the same thing over.
And you're locking January when January is done.
Yes, when we have the actuals from January, the forecast turns into actuals.
Right.
And then we go into February with the actual. And we apply the forecast until that forecast turns into actuals by the end of the month. Then we have the actual. Then we go into the next month.
Yeah, and you can't, if you're in March, you can't go back to January's tab.
No, it's done.
It's done. It happened. That's it.
And here's the other thing. If we're talking about 1 year right now, imagine, and that 1 year is built off of previous balances from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years ago in some cases, in Ithaca Hummus's case. Imagine how hard it would be to go back and rewrite the financial history of Ithaca Hummus back in 2013 when we first started.
Right.
After all these years and all this building financial documentation that's happened,
Right.
it would be almost impossible to do.
It would be a whole lot of work / impossible.
Yeah.
Because think about this. If Ithaca Hummus has been operational since 2013,
Yep.
we'll call that 12 years. We'll call that 12 months. So we've got 144 tabs open in our spreadsheet, and 143 of them are locked into place. And you're on number 144.
Yep.
Bitcoin has over 800,000 of these locked tabs that are in a chain, and they can't be disconnected, and it's all working together. It's unthinkable to go back in time and unlink these blocks. So how do they chain together really though? Okay. For the Satillion out there who's like, okay, that's cool, but literally how does it happen? Well, when you have taken that block and you've found that special number that allows you to hash the information and send it down a one-way street that creates a string of information you can't reverse. That hash or fingerprint is included in the next block. So your final number, when you get your actuals for January that you take and you put at the top of February, it's that. Only it is an incredibly secure form of that requires computational effort to produce, and it can't be undone once it's been done. So each block references the one before it by including a fingerprint of that earlier block called a hash. That's what creates the chain. If you try to tamper with one block, it breaks the connection because the fingerprint no longer matches. So somebody who wanted to mess with the blockchain would need to sever that connection, redo all the work to get back up to the present before anybody figures out that it's been done. Impossible.
Yeah.
So what's a block? It's a tab in your spreadsheet full of information. How do they chain together? Well, you take the end result of the first tab, you bring it to the top of the next tab, and you rinse and repeat for 144 or 800,000 plus. Now, why is that important? Why is the chaining of the blocks together so important?
Well, I mean, it's secure. It is impossible to defraud.
It's just like we said, right? Trying to redo that work would be too difficult, right?
Yeah.
And you could think about it like our show. We've done 62 episodes now. Imagine someone saying, okay, I want to redo episode number 40. And they get a studio that looks like this. They get someone that looks like me, someone that looks like you.
Impossible.
They get a different guest to be number 40. And they have a whole chat about sats with that. Not Anna Bevan, somebody else. Banna Evan, okay? They find Banna Evan, who is the bizarro form of our chief of staff, okay? And they have an episode. Well, somebody might say, oh, here's episode number 40. But then that guy's going to have to make episodes number 41, episode number 42, 43, 44, 45, all the way up to 62 before we release episode number 63 ourselves. And the minute we release episode number 60, they go, oh, that's a fake chain. That's not a real chain because this is the longest chain. The longest chain is the real chain of sat chats. So the reason why the block chaining together makes Bitcoin so important is because it secures the record of all the transactions we've ever made. And that makes it a trust-free environment. Okay. And some of our guests have pointed out, well, you still need to trust Bitcoin's code. I do. You still need to trust in the individual users or what have you, but you don't have to trust in a bank. You don't have to trust in a centralizing authority. Which means you don't need an operator for Bitcoin. It's like Jeff Booth said, we are Bitcoin. So it's this network that enforces the rules and makes sure that this tabbed spreadsheet is accurate.
Yeah,
no one can cheat.
The other critical thing that's not really mentioned here is that unlike a spreadsheet that's sitting on your computer that can crash and get deleted, or your kid can come and unplug the thing and then you lost all your work, or a Google Sheet, which is sitting somewhere on Google's cloud, which is nothing more than a server that's sitting in a physical warehouse somewhere. Those things are centralized. Bitcoin's blockchain is decentralized because there are 21,000 nodes that all have, these are all across the globe, that all have their own copy of the blockchain. And every 10 minutes when a new block is solved, the update gets pulsed out to all 21,000. They have the copy, and then they move on to the next one. And then every 10 minutes, this signal goes out.
Yeah.
Hey, a new block has been solved. So take this new tab, put it on your spreadsheet,
right,
lock it, and then we're gonna start working on the next one.
That's such an important distinction to make.
Really important.
Chris is the bomb, because you're right. People could leave this short stack feeling like we're talking about one great big spreadsheet in the sky.
It's not that.
And we often call the blockchain a big fat spreadsheet in the sky because it's just easier for us to think about all working on a Google Sheet or together, right? Because you can see when someone else is in there with you, which cell they're highlighting, and everybody can work together and get the real-time updates. But the twist with Bitcoin is that everyone has their own local sovereign copy of this spreadsheet that no one can change except for the operator of that node. So they're all working together in lockstep, 21,000 plus that have linked arms, and they're walking and they're like, we know what the truth is, and you're not going, like, we're not going to cede any ground. Do you know what I mean? It's only marching forward.
So great.
No hijinks, no funny business, nothing.
Yeah.
And when they transmit that new tab, everybody grabs it, adds it to their own local sovereign copy, checks it, makes sure that the rules were enforced, and then, okay, we accept it. What's the next one?
All right. Well, we're all set here. We're all finished. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Sat Chats Short Stacks. Please remember that Sat Chats is for educational purposes only, should not be construed for financial advice. We'll see you on the next one.